Hello and welcome back to another We Ourselves video. And today I want to just give my reactions to The Marvels. I went to see this opening day, November 9th. And I just want to take a moment to just give my reaction to The Marvels movie. Now, if you have not seen the movie, please get off this video, go and see it if you intend to see it, and then come back. First of all, it was not a bad movie. When I left, I was actually in a good feeling. I did not feel like I wasted my money. And there were actually some genuine good action scenes. There were some funny scenes. There were some choices that the director made that is like, okay, I could take or leave it. But overall, it was an enjoyable movie. And I remember saying to a friend that if this movie had come out when it was supposed to come out, I think it would have done better. I know there were a lot of reshoots and things like that because it didn't test well. Comparing it to other Marvel movies during the golden first three phases, I think it holds up as well or even better than some of those other movies. There was a lot of good action. There was a lot of good action choreography. I thought the visual effects, the locations were spectacular. It really helps to expand the idea of the cosmic. I think the acting was good. Brie Larson was able to emote more, and she was able to bring her obvious acting ability out in this movie. I think here she really works, and I think it helps that she has two other talented actresses to play off of. The chemistry between her, Teyonah Parris, and Amant Villani, sorry for mispronouncing the name, Miss Marvel and Captain Rambo, I think that really helped. I think they had really good chemistry. Again, the choreography with the villain, Dar-Benn, which was played by Zawe Ashton, I think all of those scenes were really good. I really enjoyed seeing those scenes. And so that worked. A lot of the humor kind of worked in the movie. There were some choices that I didn't really like, but I'll get to that later. But I just want to say that overall it was a fun movie. And I have to say, Miss Marvel, Amant Villani, she has really good screen presence. She has a lot of energy and she is really enjoyable to watch. And I think taking her outside of her teen-focused TV show and putting her in the situation with these adult women and seeing her pull her own weight and learning how to work with them and also learning how to deal with the real world battle situations, I think it really worked for her character. And at the end, when she shows up to announce a new initiative, I think that also really worked. And I like the cameo that happens there. And again, haven't got into any spoilers yet, so you still have time to start watching because I will get into spoilers a little later. The length of the movie was fine. It did not feel long at all. They kept the pace really going. And the director is Nia DaCosta. I think she did really well in her first outing. Those are all the positive things about the movie, I want to say. And now I want to go into some of the nitpick, some of the things that I did not like so much about the movie. First of all, I thought Dar-Benn was a strong character who had a strong motivation. The gist of the story is when Brie Larson destroyed the Marvel computer mine, when she destroyed that, she left that planet in a bad situation because that computer mine controlled everything and ran everything. When she destroyed it, the people, initially they got into warfare and civil war and they destroyed their planet. Now, you could say that, well, they destroyed their planet, but as always, they blamed Brie Larson. And so what she wants to do, and the trailer says it, that she's getting revenge on all the worlds that Carol Danvers called home. But she's also has another practical reason. She's stealing the resources, the air, the water, and the sunlight from these locations. And so it's like the villain has really two separate but equal motivations. Either one could have worked, and I don't feel like the film, particularly as short as it was, needed both of them. And so it felt like the villain had a double motivation that they really didn't need. The villain could have just decided to destroy the homes that she called, the worlds that she called home, and that could have been it. Or the villain could have been going out to get the resources from these different worlds, and because Carol Danvers feel like it's her responsibility, she has to stop them. Either one would have worked well. I do not think they needed both in this short movie. Again, that's a little bit of a nitpick. The other thing is there were some choices in the movie that just totally took me out. One of them was the musical. Barbie got away with it because Barbie had legit musical numbers. This wasn't even a legit musical number. Captain Marvel takes Monica and Miss Marvel to a planet where we discover that she was betrothed or married to the prince, but everybody there, they speak in song. And so suddenly Brie Larson's voice is singing. And I say voice because the way it's recorded and the way it sounds and the way they are acting, it is totally unbelievable that she's even remotely singing at that moment. And I think that and just the shock of them doing this just took me out of the movie. And I'm just sitting here shaking my head for the entire time until they go back to speaking in their normal voice. Brie Larson is serious as she plays the character. Captain Marvel breaking into song when she's never done that in any other movie was shocking and not in a good way. And for all the good it did anyway. I like the outfits because you see them change their outfits. And particularly in this scene, Miss Marvel and Captain Rambo, they get their new uniforms. And again, they look really nice. But yeah, that was one choice. The other choice is Nick Fury looks tired. It began with the first Captain Marvel movie. Secret Invasion totally destroyed his character and any of his reputation as this hard-nosed leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. And now this movie, it just kind of continues. He's just there. Nothing that happens on the station really, truly has anything to do with the plot of the movie. Miss Marvel and Captain Rambo changing places, which you see in the trailer, but it really had nothing to do with the main plot, except for her family's on the space station. And then the Flurkins, again, spoiler, Flurkin is breeding. And when you see the eggs looked cheap. I had no problem with the visual effects. The practical effects on the station looked Star Trek level. And I don't mean recent Star Trek, I mean Next Generation Star Trek level. The station did not come off as cinematic. It came off as something that you would see on a 90s or 2000 era sci-fi show. And nothing against the people who put this together. I just think that the art direction and the decision to do it and how it looked, to me, it just didn't come off as cinematic as the rest of the movie did. Nick Fury is just there and he looks old and tired. I think that Marvel has really done a number on his character, and I don't think he's going out with grace. Having all the little kittens, the little Flurkins, and using them to get all the people off the space station, that was a neat setup, but for what payoff? I mean, the station being in trouble and people evacuating, it really had nothing to do with the main larger plot line that's going on. So the only other problem I had is when we get down to the very ending of the movie. Again, spoiler, there's a rip that's open between the dimensions and we see another dimension. We don't know what it is, and we find out in the post-credit scene that it's actually the X-Men dimension because we see Beast, not Kelsey Grammer, actually in the makeup, but totally CGI and just have his voice. And honestly, I know there's a lot of work that these artists did and they were given an impossible thing to do, so I'm not criticizing them for what they did, but ironically, Kelsey Grammer 20-something years ago when he was actually in the makeup looked better because it looked realer than what we had this time. But anyway, Captain Rambo, in order to close it, she has to absorb the power from the two bands, nega bands, or I think they're calling it something else. But she has to absorb the power, fly through the rip, and close it from the other side so that she's now trapped in that other dimension. All of that was fine. The thing at the end that got me is when they finally show the Rambo Homestead, which still exists. And it looks like Kamala's family is moving into this house, and I'm saying, why? I know in the attack at the beginning of the movie, and again, all that action was really good with Brie Larson's Captain Marvel and Captain Rambo and Miss Marvel switching because they don't know how to use their powers yet. All of that was really exciting and stuff. And yes, their house was really devastated, but why wouldn't S.H.I.E.L.D. or Saber or Sword or whatever they're going by now, why wouldn't they just pay to rebuild their house? Why would they relocate them in the middle of nowhere and give them Maria Rambo's house? Because in the show, Miss Marvel, they really emphasize the culture, the neighborhood, the extended family, the friends, the community, the immigrant community. They even have names for all the different groups. I don't believe for a second that they would relocate to the other side of the country and it plopped down in an area that probably don't have anybody else of their culture that they can relate to. If their house was destroyed in the real world, I think that's when all that community will pull together to help them as shield or sword or whatever the hell paid for the rebuild of their house. Another thing that I noticed is in the show, Kamala's older brother was married. He got married to a sister, not to his sister, to a black woman, sorry. I noticed that she was nowhere in sight. It's almost as if they did the Thanos snap on her and she was gone. And it made me wonder if there was some pushback from the targeted demographic with the brother marrying a black woman. Or did the director or people above the directors think that we already have enough black females in this movie? And so it's played like he was never married. And it's a huge continuity error because there's a comment by the mom that this house is a good place to raise a family. And there's a little joke there and it kind of works. But it's like when I'm looking at it, it's like, well, wait a minute. He's already married. You're acting like he's not. So did they totally erase the black woman that he married in the show? And if they did, why? Why would you do that, Marvel? Again, I think it's the people above the director and everybody who's making these boneheaded decisions. The last thing I want to say has to do with Monica Rambeau. I've done a video where I talked about the black women in Marvel are not given any kind of family ties or legacy. And when it comes to the black women, you never have any mention of a father. With all the other characters, the white female characters and the other female characters of color, you have fathers. And right here in this movie, Kamala Khan's parents are there. Her father is there. Even Brie Larson, who had a one-note father, that father still contributed to that, like I said, that iconic stand-up sequence where you see her coming to her own. So when it comes to the Marvel women, particularly the frontline women, you see their relationship to their father. Echo, we saw her relationship to her father in Hawkeye. And now we're coming to her show, and I'm sure you're going to get even more. And you're seeing her relationship to Kingpin, who was like a surrogate father to her. But when it comes to Monica Rambeau, and the comic book nerds say that he is alive and well. Maria Rambeau's husband is alive, and I think even her parents are. So Monica has grandparents, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe has not seen fit to give her any kind of family or legacy. And here we are back on her mom's homestead, her estate. And it really feels like Maria Rambeau gave it to Captain Marvel. And I don't understand. Like I said, when I talked about Monica Rambeau and why when she came back from the snap, she did not seek out a relative, like her father, so that they can have that father-daughter talk and they can talk about the mom and give her the encouragement so that she can go in and face Haywood. It's like, I don't understand, because all the other female characters, that's exactly what they would have done. And that's exactly what they do with the other characters. Now that we see this homestead, it just makes me wish that they had done that even more, because she could have come here. It would have been a callback to Captain Marvel. Could have been a knock on the door. Her dad shows up. They have a talk. They're sitting at the table, the same one you saw in Captain Marvel. But now she's an adult. And that's when she gets that pep talk from her dad. And that's when she gets up and she's ready to go back. And that's when she goes into S.W.O.R.D. to confront Hayward and have her job back. And I have to say this also. I don't understand why it seems like Maria Rambeau left this homestead to Captain Marvel instead of her daughter. In the WandaVision show, we're told that Maria Rambeau was a forward thinker. She made protocols in case the disappeared returned. You're not going to tell me that she was able to do that, and she also didn't make provisions in case her daughter returned and she was gone. She would have made provisions for her estate to go to her daughter. Again, Marvel has this inability to give the black characters any kind of legacy and family. And it's in your face in this movie because Kamala Khan literally brings her family along into the danger zone. Just like the Blue Beetle movie, he brought his family into the danger zone. So these immigrant families and these families of color, they get family. Shang-Chi, you had family and legacy. But when it comes to the black female characters, there's no family, there's no legacy. None. And I have to say, this is the one final thing, and this is a touchy subject, I know. Right now, we are dealing with an immigrant crisis. Immigrants are being bused from the border to other states and cities that are now having to scramble to find humane locations to house these new influx of people. And part of the thing that's happening, particularly with the black communities in these areas, is they are finding out that sometimes they are the target zone for where these individuals are being housed, and is creating tensions in Chicago and New York and places like that. And I find it really odd that this film that was held back twice and had reshoots, that the people who made the decision at the top did not see the problem with the visuals of Captain Marvel, who almost comes off as Maria Rambo's partner and not just friend. And it seems like the house was left to her, or she's making the decision. Captain Marvel, a white female, has decided to give this black family's estate to the immigrant family. And it's like, given what's happening right now, did nobody think about that visual? Yes, we like the characters and stuff, but we cannot ignore what they represent, because Marvel themselves went out of their way to say that Kamala's family represents the life of an immigrant family in the United States. Maria Rambo has an estate. Obviously, she didn't leave it to her daughter, and if she did, Captain Marvel decided to give that estate to the immigrant family, a estate that belonged to a black woman and should have gone to somebody in her family, namely her daughter. And that's another thing. What does that say about Captain Marvel's belief that they will get Captain Rambo back? She just gave away their estate to somebody else. Somebody else who, in the context of their own story that we've already seen in their own show, I do not think they would move there. They would stay in their community and get help from the community as Sword or Shield, whatever we're calling them, rebuilt their house. They would not move all the way across the country to probably more of a hostile environment, all the way away from their support system. And if there's anything in the movie that really hit me in a sour way and really made me feel down about the movie, it was just this ending that just seemed to undo so many things that were already established. It seemed to emphasize things that weren't established but should have been. And it also mimics a very troubling problem that's existing right now in America, in cities where you're having immigrants who are bused to locations, and a lot of times when they get to those locations, the communities that's feeling the brunt of the relocations of these individuals tend to be the black and minority communities. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. As always, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.